Beyond the Red House, where we turn trauma into triumph and pain into purpose. I'm Kayla Valterno, author of I Was Once the Girl in the Red House, and I believe in the power of authentic healing stories. This is a space where your voice matters, your story heals, and your journey inspires others to break their own cycles. Whether you're just beginning your healing or years into building your new life, you belong here. Let's explore what it means to move beyond the red houses that hurt us and build the lives we actually deserve. Welcome back to Beyond the Red House. I'm Kayla, and today's episode is going to be a bit different, and honestly, the hardest one I've recorded so far. I am going to share my own story. Now, of course, my full story in detail is in my book, I Was Once the Girl in the Red House, which is available on Amazon, and the link is always in the show notes. But I've been thinking about the TikTok trend where people say, when people think I don't know ball, oh, I know ball, where they show things like, I've seen people getting their sparkle back, things like that, and I realized I needed to share my why. Why I actually know what this journey looks like and feels like. I want you to understand why I have this podcast and why I wrote my book. And more importantly, why I'm so passionate about helping others who are stuck in the darkest part of their journey, whether or not you just started healing or you're struggling with the decision to go no contact. I'm sharing my story to show you that it does get better, and more importantly, you're not alone in this. So without further ado, my story. My mother and I have been no contact for about 13 years now. I made that decision when I was 19 years old, right in the middle of my parents' divorce. The moment I decided to go no contact, it wasn't just one thing. It was a series of events where her behavior became more erratic and more dangerous. I didn't feel safe anymore, but that final realization that I had to protect myself was both terrifying but necessary. That decision wasn't easy, but it was critical to my mental health and to my life. My mother was my biggest critic, my biggest hater, my bully. For as long as I could remember, nothing I did was ever good enough for her. Everything was always about what she wanted and what she needed. I woke up every single day scared, wondering if she was going to have a good day or if she was going to make my life more miserable. The verbal abuse was constant. She found so many ways to put me down, to make sure that I knew that she was superior and I was nothing. I was made to feel like a shell of a person. I honestly hated myself. And I constantly wondered, why did my own mother hate me? And I blamed myself for years, thinking it's my fault. I would tell myself, if my own mother doesn't love me, why would anyone else? I lived in constant fight or flight mode, always wondering when I'd have to face her wrath again. I always felt alone, and that's why it's so important to me now to make sure no one else feels that way. Once I went no contact, my entire life started to change, but it took me a decade to finally heal. I tried therapy a few times, but never found a therapist who could help me deal with the trauma. And I knew, with all the brick walls I built around myself, that I had to do this myself. That's when I started writing letters and later my book. My book took me 10 years to write, not because I'm a slow writer, but because I would start and then it would get too painful to remember the hardest parts of my childhood. I have had so many different drafts that I have completely scrapped and deleted. It's because I started writing during my anger phase of my grief. 10 out of 10, do not recommend that. But for me, the turning point came when I realized what my book was missing. My healing. For years, I wrote about the trauma, about what happened to me, and I finally reached a point where I felt healed enough to write about how I healed and how I was able to move on. I had the strength to talk about my experience without crying, without being hurt by it anymore, and that's when I knew I could finish my book. My final copy took a full year from start to finish. And writing that book is the reason I was finally able to see, wait, this isn't my fault at all. I was a child. It was her job to protect me. My driving force through all of this has always been picturing that little girl I was, alone in my bedroom, wishing I could be saved, or for someone to just listen. And I never want anyone to feel that alone. That's always been my purpose, to make sure people know that they're not alone. Breaking generational cycles has been my other driving force, so my children get the best version of me. When it comes to breaking the cycle with my own children, I do things very differently. I give them a voice. I allow them to speak up when they don't like something. I also apologize when I do something that isn't right. Saying I'm sorry to my children is one of the most beautiful things I can do, because I never got an apology from my mother, not once. I remind myself every day that they're just kids learning how to be in this big, crazy world. So I try to have patience with them while they're learning. I'm there for them. I give lots of hugs and kisses and tell them every day how much I love them. I give them that reassurance that even though mommy might be mad at you this moment, it doesn't mean I don't love you. And my kids are still very young. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, so I'm navigating cycle breaking in the age-appropriate way. But I'm committed to it every single day. I've learned so much about myself on this healing journey, and I want to tell you, if you're on your own path of healing, you are so much stronger and braver than you have ever known, and no one could ever take that away from you. You survived the worst part of your life, and it's so hard to look back on those times. And for so long, I would just push everything down inside me, but I realized I couldn't do that anymore. I had to get everything out, and for me, that was writing. Now, of course, I would be lying if I said I just woke up one day and every single negative thought or emotion I had about my past was suddenly gone. No way. Healing hasn't been a straight line. I've had to learn how to take things day by day, and for someone who's always been a planner, that is one of the hardest lessons to learn. I'm still figuring things out. Still learning how to embrace the good, the bad, and the downright ugly parts of life and healing. Some days I feel strong. Other days I find myself slipping back into old thoughts or patterns, and I have to remind myself, you're not there anymore. You've come too far to go back. What works best for me might not work for you. I used to spiral when I felt triggered, sometimes falling into a deep depression. But now, I've found ways to talk myself through the process instead. It doesn't mean I don't feel pain, but I know how to give myself space and move through it instead of being consumed by it. Journaling and just writing my feelings has been the most therapeutic tool for me. Maybe for you it's something different. The point is, healing doesn't look the same for everyone. It's not supposed to. It's about finding healthy ways to move through your emotions and not letting them define you. Once I left that anger stage and finally accepted everything that happened in my life, I realized something. For me personally, and I'm not saying you have to, but for me, in order to move on, I had to forgive my mom. But I will never have a conversation with her. She doesn't deserve that. For most of my life, I searched for answers. I questioned why things had to happen the way they did. Why I never felt safe. Why love from her always came with strings. Why wasn't I enough for her to choose me, protect me, to see me? And maybe the hardest one of all, why did I have to be the one to break the cycle? I wanted her to change. I wanted her to apologize. I wanted her to acknowledge the pain, the silence, the damage. But she never did. And I realized she never will. So, I stopped waiting. And a little excerpt from my book is my favorite part. Closure didn't come in the form of a conversation. It came in the form of a choice. My choice. I chose to stop begging for the love from someone who couldn't give it. I chose to mother myself in all the ways she never did. And I chose to give my children a different story than the one I lived. I broke through the chains that she placed on me when I was too young to understand. For years I craved something, like it was always out of reach. I used to think that would come once I checked these boxes, once I healed parts of myself, once I felt whole. But what I realized is that I was always the person standing in my own way. I was the one waiting for permission to just be happy. And I was waiting for peace to show up instead of choosing it in those quiet moments. And these days, I find myself appreciating what I have and who I have in my life. I am so blessed to have a loving husband, to have two beautiful children that heal me in more ways than one. I am so thankful for my friends, for my family, everyone who has supported me in this journey. And I know sometimes it's hard for others to see the pain written on the pages, but I'm so appreciative to everyone who's listened and who's read my book and understands a little bit more about me. Because healing myself truly has been the hardest journey of my life, but it has been the most beautiful, loving part. I've given myself something that I never knew I could have, and that is happiness. And that is why I try so hard to make sure that whoever is listening understands that they deserve that. You deserve to find happiness. You deserve to find that closure no matter how it looks. And you deserve the life that you choose. No one is controlling your life anymore. Every choice you make is yours. So you are the one who finally gets to take control of your own life and choose happiness. I know I've talked about a lot how so many people just say, well, just heal. And I've talked a lot about how healing is so hard, and it's not an overnight quick fix. It takes time. There's so many times where you'll still wake up in the middle of the night crying and screaming because you feel like you're going crazy. And I would constantly ask myself, why do I feel this way? Why was I always sad? Why couldn't I be happy for little moments? Why was I always criticizing everything I did? I was listening to that inner critic more than I was listening to myself. I wasn't happy because I never dealt with my past. And pushing everything away made me so much angrier. It made me sadder. I pushed everything and everyone away, and that wasn't a way to live. And look, I'm not a therapist. If therapy works for you, absolutely do it. I love therapy. It just never worked for me. I just never found the right therapist. But if you're like me and you have to write everything down to get out of your head because you overanalyze everything, please do it. Everyone heals in their own time, in their own way. That's why there's never a clear answer of how do I heal? Because everyone's healing journey is different. Everyone's pain is different. Everyone's trauma is different. We're all different people. I so wish there was one easy, quick fix. I would be going on and on about it every week of how to heal yourself instantly. I would do it. I would love for there to be an instantaneous button to press that you're automatically healed. But healing yourself is the most important gift that you can give yourself. It has been such a journey for me. It has been so hard, but it is the biggest blessing I've ever had. I no longer wake up in the morning dreading the day. I could look at my children and genuinely be happy. I could have a day where things happen and chaos happens and I'm okay. It doesn't ruin my entire day like it used to. Now, will I say my life is completely perfect? No. No one's life is perfect. I still have those days where things creep into my mind, and everyone does. But now I'm able to sit here and talk about the most painful parts of my life, and it doesn't completely destroy me. I have people reading the most vulnerable and, to me, sometimes embarrassing moments of my life when they read my book. But if I could help people with my story, then everything I went through wasn't for nothing. And I want to help you on this journey with the lessons I've learned along the way. Healing's not easy, but you don't have to do it alone. And thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions about my story, or maybe you want to tell me a little bit about your own story, send me an email, hello@kaylavalterno.com. And until next time, this is Beyond the Red House. Your healing matters. Your story matters. And you matter. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Red House. If you have a story to share or want to connect, email me at hello@kaylavalterno.com. Visit kaylavalterno.com for my book and resources to support your healing journey. Everything will be in the show notes. Keep building beyond whatever tried to break you. You are stronger than you know. This is Beyond the Red House.